And welcome back to the Fitness Nerds podcast. This is your co-host, Ryan Smith, and I've got a special interview with us today. So I have Jeff Hunt from RestWise, which is a company all about rest and recovery for our athletes. And I also have Rhonda Collier from Sweetwater, which is the maker of the SweetBeat HRV app and several other apps. So today we're going to be talking a lot about the rest, recovery, and how to know that it's time to train, whether it's a good time to train or whether it's a day that we need to take for rest. So first I have Jeff. So Jeff, if you want to give a little bit of your background. I didn't have everything pulled up here, so give us a little bit about you and RestWise.
Sure. So thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me on your podcast. So my background as a businessman and as an athlete, and RestWise is an attempt to combine both of those into a fun and productive way to spend my time. So as an athlete, I've always been focused on endurance training and have been in very competitive situations where I've had to push myself to an extreme. And in doing that, I had a particular incident where I was at the Olympic Training Center training for cycling, and long story short, was pushed too hard, overtrained. I took about 4 months after that before I could compete at a level where I should have been performing. And because of that, became incredibly attuned to the importance of recovery in a training plan. Right. So fast forward about 20 years, I partnered with a high school friend of mine who's been a coach of a couple of athletes, but most notably a world champion mountain biker. And as a coach, he said that his biggest challenge was understanding recovery of athletes. And one thing led to another. The two of us decided to put together RestWise as a way to quantify your recovery so that as an athlete or a coach, you can balance the demands of training with the needs to recover from the training and absorb its benefits. Right. So I'll get into that in a little more, but I'm going to stop right there so that you can have Rhonda introduce herself.
Absolutely. So great. And then on the other line, we also have Rhonda Collier from SweetBeat, as I introduced, or Sweetwater Health, right? And then SweetBeat is the app that we're utilizing, and along with a couple other, the HRV Sense. I know that that Dave Asprey with the Bulletproof Executive uses, and we also have the Food Sense app, which is built into those as for that I utilize with my athletes. So Rhonda, if you give us a little background about yourself and Sweetwater itself.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you so much, Ryan, for having us. We really appreciate all your support and enjoy doing these podcasts.
Great.
So my background is actually electrical engineering, and I did chip design. Yes, computer chips, video and graphics chips. TVs and computers and PCs like that for a long time, and I loved it. And then one day I was just done. So I went to grad school and got a master's in holistic psychology. And going into its marriage family therapy training and its holistic, coming from an electrical engineering background, I viewed it as systems theory applied to people and relationships. It really is. And so because I wasn't going to train to be a therapist, I did my thesis on starting with quantum physics. I linked all these different systems together and how to build a healthy business. It's pretty interesting. And through my travels, I found heart rate variability.
Okay.
I was seeing these recurring themes through all these different scientific disciplines. So anyway, with the therapy background, we spent 3 years learning about when we were triggered. Okay. Because as a therapist, you need to know that, otherwise you'll take it out on your client if they trigger you. And so I really wanted to create an app that would let you know when you're triggered. Okay. Because the thing about stress is you get used to being stressed, and when you have chronic stress, you don't even know it.
Right.
That you're in a constant fight or flight mode. And you feel relaxed. And so that really led to Sweetwater Health. I ran into Jo Beth Dow, who's my business partner, in the park one day, and we just said, let's do it. And then Donna Lever had just quit her job at Tektronix, and the rest is history.
Awesome.
But it really was to create something that could help people help themselves.
Right.
And then, of course, we met Ben Greenfield, who wanted to use it for training recovery.
Right.
And so because we are Silicon Valley startup engineers, we turned on a dime and added features for Ben. And now here we are.
Awesome. Yep. And it's definitely, and I know from my own personal standpoint, being involved as far as utilizing the app and kind of learning a lot about HRV, and obviously being one of Ben's superhuman coach trainers, going through that whole program, we spent a lot of time talking about HRV as well and recovery. And we've done whole sections from a recovery standpoint. And me as an endurance coach, I deal a lot with Ironman athletes, ultra runners, and but then also I have kind of a holistic and wellness business as well. So dealing with executives and professionals and how do we handle their performance on a daily basis. So this is that, most people don't realize how important rest and recovery, as well as what's going on from a nervous system standpoint, plays into their day-to-day life. So this is pretty cool. And I guess I just got the email last week about the new announcement with obviously Sweetwater and RestWise kind of coming together and utilizing that. So I was obviously very excited to have you both on today too. So with that, I guess we'll kind of start with Jeff and talking about rest and recovery and what it takes from a standpoint of that as somebody who's been overtrained, myself who's also been overtrained and dealing with people that have been coached and overtrained. Talk to us a little bit about rest and recovery and the markers that go along with it.
All right. So it's good to know that you've got the personal experience as well, so this will all resonate with you. But the first thing to say about recovery is that when you exercise, that doesn't make you fitter or stronger.
Right.
It's the time after the exercise when your body adapts to the stimulation of the exercise that you actually make the gains and make improvements in fitness. So in order to have a productive training plan or exercise plan, whatever level you're at, you have to have the balance right between the stimulus and the time and conditions that you provide for your body to absorb it.
Right.
And if you do that, you can get a nice steady progression towards increased fitness, increased health, and and perform better, not just as an athlete, but in all aspects of your life. So what's been interesting about listening to these introductions is that we came very much from the elite athlete side of it and realized that as we got deeper and deeper into working with not just athletes, but their coaches and people who have a background that isn't just performance driven, it is really health and wellness driven, that a lot of the stressors that can end up compromising your athletic performance are not just the results of training and working out, but it's all the life stresses.
Right.
So you asked us, we originally designed RestWise about 4 years ago, and the concept was to take a survey of sports science that was available for recovery, take all the markers that had been shown to reflect compromised recovery, put them into a single algorithm so that somebody who's using it answers about a dozen questions each day. It takes about a minute to do it, and it churns through an algorithm. The RestWise algorithm comes up with a score on 1 to 100.
Right.
So our principle in developing that was keep it really simple, rely on existing science, don't develop anything new, and make it quick so that people comply with it.
Right.
At the time, HRV was sort of a new concept, at least as it was being applied to athletics. So we sort of looked at it. We didn't include it. Over time, the science behind it has become much stronger. And as we've started working with our own athletes, we've had a lot of people request it. So in addition to the markers that we started with, which I'll go through in a second, we've decided that this opportunity to partner with Sweetwater Health was a great way to bring HRV to those people who want another objective marker and a way to really reflect central nervous system fatigue, and build that into RestWise. So if it's helpful, I'll quickly run through the things that we do track.
Please do.
Okay. So when you complete your RestWise information each day, first thing in the morning, you're entering your morning heart rate, your oxygen saturation if you happen to use a pulse oximeter, although that's by far the least important part of the algorithm. Mm-hmm. Your morning weight, another optional field if you don't have the equipment. How much you slept and how well, which, as you know, is absolutely huge to responses that create positive adaptation. Energy level and mood, which are both obviously subjective markers, but there's a ton of science behind them that shows that they correlate to invasive tests that show hormone levels and other measures that have been shown in the lab to correlate to compromised recovery. Then let's see, we've got appetite, any illness or injury, muscle soreness, urine shade, and I think that gets us through the entire list.
Okay.
But as you can see, they're all either yes/no questions. Yes, things are normal. They're worse than normal, better than normal, or they're simple numbers that you plug in.
Right. Okay. Great. Yeah, and it's I haven't used the RestWise in the same way, but I'm one of the Training Peaks certified trainers and coaches, so I've gone through their program. So I know they have something that's a similar that's in there where we can incorporate those things. But I've been looking at just from a simplicity, I've been using that. But RestWise was one of those programs I've been looking at, kind of bringing in utilizing with all of my clients, whether they're my coaching or my endurance clients. So it's good to know that what the products and the different things that are involved in that as well. So
we actually have a partnership with Training Peaks where they added some of the metrics that we track into their daily metrics section.
Okay.
So if you complete your RestWise data, it all flows into Training Peaks.
Great.
Along with the recovery score. So it's set up for somebody like you who wants to incorporate that and now with the HRV component, if you wanted to get everything all in one place, that'd be a great way to do it.
That's great, yeah. Because I do know that as of yet, Training Peaks has not incorporated HRV, and it's something I've requested of them as a coach. So I'm looking forward that now that this is a way that I can utilize, obviously, HRV and RestWise and have that incorporated into Training Peaks as well, since they have yet to do that for me. So speaking of HRV, and I've covered this a little bit, just me talking about HRV on a previous podcast, but I would love to get your feedback and discussion around exactly what HRV is, Rhonda.
Oh, okay, sure. So my favorite description is people think, without thinking actually, people assume that your heart beats at a regular intervals. So if your heart rate is 60 beats per minute, that it beats in 1 second intervals.
Right.
Okay, that's not true, and that would be very unhealthy. It's not like a metronome. It actually beats in like 0.92, 0.98, 1.03, and the intervals average out to be 60 beats per minute. Okay, so that variability is what heart rate variability is. Okay, now heart rate variability is represented in lots of different ways. But heart rate variability is the natural occurring variation between heartbeats.
Okay.
And there's multiple ways to measure that. One is statistical, standard deviation, root mean square, successive differences. For anybody who took stats in college, it's all just really statistical measures. And then there's also frequency analysis of it, and that's more engineering geek.
Right.
But basically, you run a frequency analysis on it, and that gives you what's called low frequency or LF.
Okay.
And high frequency or HF.
Okay.
So all of these are different ways of measuring heart rate variability.
Okay.
So where it applies to the athletes is that it turns out that overtraining, amongst other things, fatigues what's called the vagal tone. And the vagus nerve is the 10th of 12 cranial nerves.
Right.
And can be measured using the time domain heart rate variability called RMSSD, or root mean square of successive differences. And then the other things you can measure are the sympathetic nervous system, and I'm going to back up a little bit. The autonomic nervous system consists of two branches. The sympathetic or fight or flight branch that speeds the heart up, basically prepares you to fight or run, sends blood to the muscles, shuts down digestion, which is why a lot of stressed people have a lot of stomach problems. And then, so that's the sympathetic or fight or flight branch. And then we have the parasympathetic or rest and repair branch. That slows the heart down. it sends blood to all of the digestion, and it's really the time when repair occurs.
Okay.
And so these two branches of the nervous system are all contributing to that variability, where the sympathetic is speeding it up and the parasympathetic slowing down.
Okay.
And so the LF, or low frequency analysis of heart rate variability, is your sympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
And the parasympathetic is the HF.
Okay.
And so heart rate variability is this great non-invasive way to look at the nervous system. So
okay.
Those are the pieces that people want to know about.
Okay. Yeah. And that's what, and I know from me, whenever I'm watching my HRV and whenever I'm looking at it and I break it down, I look at my high frequency and my low frequency to see what we've got going on. And obviously that's also based on the app itself. It tells me what is based on that relationship and how stressed I am and everything is what I'm seeing from there. So the HRV is a number, whereas the high frequency and low frequency is the data that gives me what I need to know about what's going on actually in my nervous system, right? Is that kind of...
That's right. No,
okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And there's different things about low frequency and high frequency that people are interested in. So one is the balance,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So an overdrive of fight or flight is a stress situation,
Right.
okay? And then there's the power levels,
Okay.
okay? So once again, there's the ratio of low frequency to high frequency, and then there's the power levels. And so your average couch potato, or even someone who does a little bit of walking,
Mm-hmm.
may have power levels in the hundreds.
Okay.
Okay. Some of these elite athletes have it up at 10,000.
Okay.
So there's the balance, and then there's the power levels. And I really want to stress to your listeners, everybody has their own range.
Mm-hmm.
And so really you can't compare yourself to other people. And so if you do use something like SweetBeat and start looking at the power levels, you'll figure out what your normal range is.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you fall below that for some length of time, something's going on. Either you're training too hard, or you could have some systemic something else going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. So I guess with that then, so we've got these two very different components of what's going on in an athlete's recovery. And I know from whenever I'm coaching with my athletes, I kind of emphasize to them that they're training, whether it be an hour or 2 hours out of the day, but there's still another 22 hours out of the day that they need to be recovering. And that is the time where they are getting the most benefit. Because if they've trained hard and then they're still stressed, or they're not recovering, they're going out and they're doing stuff, and they're in a highly volatile situation at home or whatever it may be, that their body is not recovering. So it's
right.
That this recovery is all the stuff that they need. Would you kind of agree with that, Jeff? Or
Absolutely. And as a coach, I originally told what the impetus was to start the company. I think as a coach, it's incredibly challenging because you can lay out the most intelligent training plan that has the ideal balance for that athlete between rest and recovery, but you have no idea what they're doing during that time when you're not with them, and can profoundly affect how they respond from the exact same training stimulus.
Right. Yeah, and I think I use the analogy sometimes is when people whether they're a triathlete or whatever they are, but triathletes are obviously it's a great way to, as an example, of dealing with endurance athletes, but they'll see in a magazine Craig Alexander's training program, and it's like they're going to try to utilize that type of a training program of a professional athlete. But what they don't realize is that he's got this training program, but then he's got all this other time that he's spending recovering, where the rest of us have an 8 or 10 hour a day job and families and all this other stuff, and we're not paid to rest and recover because that's where our performance, we're trying to perform and do this type of a training program. Plus we have to live the rest of a life of earning income or whatnot, because most of us are not professional athletes.
That's exactly right. And people, particularly talk about triathlon, there's a very highly motivated mindset among triathletes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in some ways, coaches and athletes, or people who provide products like mine and Miranda's, are, we're swimming upstream because it's a lot easier for someone with a work hard, mindset to just stick to a training plan, to forget whatever ignore whatever signals are telling them they should make adjustments. So what's powerful about what we've done individually and combined now is to put a number to it.
Right.
So, if somebody wakes up and maybe they're thinking, you know what, I don't feel good, but I'm supposed to go run 12 miles today. They go through a more rigorous process where they're getting a real understanding of what is going on in their body. The answering questions would reflect their hormone state, and taking measurements would reflect their nervous system state. And all of a sudden, it's not just you feeling like you're wimping out. You're being told that the best thing you can do today to improve your fitness and health is to sit on the couch.
Right.
It's not to go do that run.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard as those type A personalities and those early adopters. It's like, what do you mean I have to sit at home today? I can't sit at home today. I have to go do this. This is,
right here.
Yeah.
I had this time slot allocated.
Exactly.
Out of my busy working, and I'm going to go do it.
That's right. Yeah. And that's...
And really getting that mindset of I want to perform best, and that means rest today. It's just...
Yeah, absolutely. And I've actually got some people that I'm dealing with some similar situations. They're very, very type A people. They have, a job that is where they're gone for 2, 3, 4 days at a time, and they're, kind of all over the place and stressors, and they're up all night because, it's different things. And, it's like, okay, and my times are getting slower. Why are they getting slower? Well, and they've been getting slower for 6 months. Well, probably because you're not resting. So.
Well, and I think what's important for, the young people think they're going to live forever is that even a fit athlete can end up with a heart attack, due to the stress. Right. They end up with hypertension and high blood pressure because they're just in chronic stress. They're not sleeping well. So it's really important, not just for that event training to be better, but to have a long and healthy life.
Right. Definitely. So let's get into a little bit about this combination now, how we're bringing the two different numbers together. So what is it? So we've got, Jeff, you've got the things that you've been dealing with, and then Rhonda, you've got your numbers. And like I said, I'm kind of familiar with all of that. And now how are the two kind of coming together to give us a new number from recovery? Is it just another data point with the RestWise to give us, or what type of things do we have?
Well, so we're doing this in steps, and what we've done to date is created an automatic transfer of information from somebody who enters their SweetBeat or their SweetBeatLife reading in the morning, or who takes the reading in the morning. It automatically gets uploaded into Sweetwater, but also gets sent over to RestWise. So we've added that field, and it's now something that, yes, it is one of the dozen things that we track, but it's got a special role. And what we really wanted to do is to give people an opportunity to see both of those together and make decisions with a more complete picture based on both sets of information. So the first thing we did in phase 1 was to allow somebody who views their RestWise chart, which shows their whole history of the recovery score over time, to view right up against that the HRV score for that same period. Okay. And I've probably got the most experience of anyone on the planet incorporating the two of them. It's been fascinating watching them move, generally very much in lockstep, and then occasionally I'll see a divergence, which maybe that I'm worse off than I am, and this is in a quantitative way of telling me that I'm actually doing better than I think I am, and it might be okay to go train a bit. But it's it allows me to have another data point right now to make those decisions. And then eventually what we want to do is incorporate this HRV score into the score that you get from RestWise.
Great. Awesome. And so now we've kind of got this, and it's given us obviously multiple things to look at from an athlete. How is the easiest way for, I guess, our people to collect the data of HRV? So, I mean, I know there's other companies that deal with it. I've used the Polar H7 heart rate monitor with my iPhone. That's been my most common thing. I've also tested with obviously the new health patches from Vital Connect. and utilizing those, which I know those give us a little bit more data they give us some skin temperature and some things, which I'm guessing is probably not yet involved in the whole thing because that's a fairly new thing, obviously, with the SweetBeatLife. But what is the easiest way for people to kind of collect this data and use it all together? Rhonda, you want to take that one, or?
Sure. So SweetBeat works with off-the-shelf chest straps. So most athletes have one of some sort, and a lot of folks are now moving to Bluetooth Low Energy that will talk to their iPhone or Android. Android's a little behind iPhone on that, but so not just talking to their watch, but talking to their watch and or the iPhone.
Okay.
And so you just download SweetBeat, put on your strap, and hit go.
Okay.
And then it runs a 3-minute. So for HRV for training, which is what we call it, you basically have your stuff next to you in bed, and it's really better to do it before your mind starts doing anything, because actually that will change your HRV. So it's really good to be kind of half asleep, put on your strap, and just run the 3-minute session. And then when you hit done, it uploads to our server, uploads to RestWise if you've linked your accounts. Okay. And what it does is provide a graph of your ongoing HRV and a reference line that tracks. It's a 10-day running window of the little algorithm. And so if your HRV is above that line, then it's a train as normal or increased training. And if it's below the line, it's the first day it's below the line is a low exertion day. Okay. And this, once again, this is from a research paper. I want to clarify that. Okay. They did some clinical research. So one day below the line, we recommend a low exertion day. And if you're below the line 2 days, we recommend a rest day. Okay. And so we're really looking forward to having Jeff incorporate this. I'm excited to see the data he collects. I know we're all nerds. Right. But his algorithm running next to the HRV. Right. And really having this data to really start educating people how important this is. Right. Because I've met so many people, I didn't know anything about overtraining yourself to a point of this adrenal fatigue and people really unable to have their passion. There's a guy, I think, in Sweden who he was a competitive cyclist whose HRV is really in the toilet now because he pushed himself too hard and he can't even do any riding at this point. And so just having this for all these kind of crazy type A athletes to really hopefully have a better outcome, not only in their training, but in their life.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing then, so we're doing our 3-minute reading of HRV in the morning, but this is also going to be our time, I guess, when we're going to do our pulse ox and do all of our other RestWise data that we're doing. Because if we're doing it on the iPhone, I know RestWise has an iPhone app as well, so we're going to take that and be able to do both of them at the same time. And I'm guessing, obviously, enter data from a computer or whatnot too, but I'm guessing while you're laying there, do your pulse ox and everything at the same time, right, Jeff?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
You may choose to do what Rhonda suggested, as you're still kind of waking up, put your chest strap on and take your HRV reading. Right. And then when that's done, enter your RestWise information, just so you don't have any sort of. Maybe if you're asked about your mood, it changes your your stress level, or things like that. You might want to just
do one and do the other.
It does. People have done back-to-back in the morning, and it's like, well, the second one's different because you started thinking. Right. And you started, worrying if it's the same. And if you played with, and Ryan, you have, I know that, played with SweetBeat for a long time, you'll see that a thought can tank your HRV. Yeah. A stressful thought, something going on, somebody said something that hurt your feelings or made you mad, and it just shows immediately. Right. And so I do want to comment, though, for your listeners that are interested in the health patch. Really convenient in the morning. You don't have to put that strap on. You just stick the patch on. And I use it over and over. So you can wear it 3 days in a row. Okay. Mine lasts for a month. I stick the module in, and I stick it on, and then I just put the sticky thing back on. And so that's a really convenient way to do your HRV for training. Okay. Yeah,
that's and that was one of the things, because I know depending upon the type of the health patch that we have from Vital Connect, which one. Some of them are really, really sticky. And when you try to take it off, it's done. And then the other ones are, some of them, when you put them on, they're, depending upon which one you have, it's easy to take off and put back on. Are the batteries going to last a while in the ones? Because I know the ones that I've used, it seems like they die, a week or so on the. But I've used the really heavy duty for training ones.
Well, so if you are using it for HRV for training in the morning by your bedside, just take the module out.
Okay.
I don't seal it up. So,
okay.
The flap.
Right.
So there's a little flap for your listeners that you open up. So the patch itself has the battery.
Right.
And the EKG electrodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a module that you insert that has all the sensors and the Bluetooth. And so I just take it out. I don't seal it up.
Okay, that's good to know, because
so I leave
that'll
that,
make
I just open it, stick the module in. It'll last me a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I get a lot of use out of patches.
Good. That's good to know, because I've had a few people ask me about that, and at the same time they're like, well, when they've looked at the price of it, they're going, oh, well, it's, if I'm going through these, and I'm like, well, I wanted to kind of get that whole sense of how can we utilize this. It's great sometimes to take data 24 hours a day, or 5 or 6 hours at a time, but how can we do this in a more, some people are just more economical standpoint.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
me too.
Yeah.
Just take the module in and out. I actually got a little sunglasses case.
Oh, okay.
And that's my little Vital Connect box.
All right.
So I've got my patch that I'm using, and then I put the module in there, and it's my little thing. So yeah, you can get I get a month out of it.
Okay.
Consistently.
Well,
I
great.
take the module in and out.
Okay. Well, great. So, are there any things from a kind of a recovery standpoint that you think even Jeff that think our listeners would really need to know about? That would be, hey, these are some things that they should think about from even just a daily life kind of recovery standpoint.
Well, I'll answer that first, just in the context of our product, which is the things that you measure when you're using RestWise are by and large things that influence your recovery. So it's been really interesting to see the feedback we've gotten from people who've used it. It has ranged anywhere from, I feel accountable to RestWise in the morning, so I go to bed half an hour earlier and I drink a glass of water before bed because I know I'm going to have to answer questions about sleep and hydration.
Right.
So part of the process is just taking that minute to A, think about recovery, and B, to kind of go through that checklist of the things that are an influence on it.
Okay.
So part of what I think the process that both of us put our customers through is just heightening the level of awareness, which is a big first step toward more intelligent, balanced strengthening. And then beyond that, I said sleep is incredibly important. Obviously, nutrition. There are, and after that, it gets a little unclear, kind of the value of various modalities. There's so much of recovery. There's so much debate around which, what processes you can do, whether it's massage or ice baths or the various other interventions that you can take, how effective each of those is. But one of the values of using our products is that you can actually start to do some of those things and you experiment a bit and get a better sense of what's working for you. And over time, kind of dial in the behaviors that will help you optimize your recovery.
Great. Yeah. And definitely, I mean, the awareness is such a huge part. And I think that's probably me whenever I'm educating people, is it's like, okay, you have to become aware of all of this, and again, aware of what from a nutritional standpoint and, obviously the sleep standpoint. And I guess on the sleep, how do you usually recommend that people monitor their sleep? I mean, I know so you put sleep as a data point into RestWise, and, I've got everything from Fitbit to, there's iPhone apps and all of those things. How do you usually kind of recommend from that standpoint for people utilizing RestWise?
So our sleep is measured on both quantity and quality.
Okay.
So you're answering one number, which is just how long you slept, and the other is how well you slept. And it was designed not to rely on any sort of external app or equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So the guidance that we provide people is that if you are using one of those things, then just use it to inform the metrics that we're recording.
Okay.
There's some question about how effective some of those are, depending on what technique they use.
Right.
If it's based on an accelerometer, you're going to get the same reading if you're a person who lies in bed all night without moving but isn't asleep as someone who's had a great night of sleep.
Right.
So, if those help you be more accurate about how well and how long you slept, then whatever device it is that you're using, then you should use that just to inform the answers to the questions.
Okay. Great.
We haven't found anything to integrate with yet. We were close to doing that with Zeo, which was the headband that you wore that measured your sleep and quantified it. And it was very accurate, but it just got killed by the free apps that may not have provided as good data, but are easier to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was starting to use the Zeo, and whenever they the whole thing kind of fell apart. Which it's obviously, like you said, it's a great product and would have been one of those great for us quantified selfers out there. So I'm actually going to be talking about a lot of the quantified self at a quantified self local meetup here next month. So and HRV is going to be actually one of the ones, and recovery and how to utilize things like training peaks and RestWise and all that just to quantify your daily self for this group. Because most of them are, again, a lot of them are using Fitbits and things like that. So this is going to be a cool tool for me to now, obviously bring to them and utilize with them and explain to it, so we can have more people joining into that type of information. So, Rhonda, how about you? Let's talk about some of the other features of RestWise while so Rhonda, as we're back here, Rhonda, so just talk a brief bit about some of the other features that we have in SweetBeat. I know the food sense, and then just the stress monitor, not just the HRV for training. So how can we utilize that easiest?
Right. So SweetBeat has several features, and I'll just talk about SweetBeatLife because it's really, you're talking about Fitbits and all that. It's people get really addicted to that kind of thing. So SweetBeat has a real-time stress monitor. So we look at the balance between that nervous system and see how much fight or flight you have. Mm-hmm. Okay. We have obviously the HRV for training feature. We also have a heart rate recovery feature, which our customers like. You get your heart rate up to 60 to 80% of max, and then when you stop exercising, you hit I'm done, and it will give your heart rate recovery score.
Okay.
Also, we have what's called food sensitivity detection, which lets you discover foods that you may not have an allergy to, but that is causing a sensitivity.
Okay.
And briefly, it's based on Dr. Koka's pulse test. He was a renowned immunologist in the 50s who came up with this. And your pulse will increase a certain amount up to an hour and a half after eating your offending food. Wow. If you've eaten something. And really important for all this recovery we're talking about and general health is that eating offending foods like that can cause low-level and chronic low-level inflammation. Which combined with all the hormones and stress and cortisol really wreaks havoc. And then with SweetBeatLife, we have what's called a correlation feature. So you can link in your Fitbit, you can link in your Withing scale and blood pressure cuff, also your Map My Fitness, so we can just see how many METs of exercise you're doing. And we correlate that with your HRV and your stress levels. Right. So say you're training for an event and you want to know over the last 6 months what you've been doing that consistently gives you a nice high HRV. Okay. Then we go in and actually look at all your data and say, these are the things that correlate to a high HRV or a low HRV. Okay. And people with weight will want to know that too. Because weight loss is so big for a lot of Americans and actually people in general. And so what am I doing? I feel like I can't lose weight, And so it's going to tell you what you were doing when you were able to lose weight and what you were doing when you weren't. And same with blood pressure. What am I doing? Why is my blood pressure sometimes high and sometimes where I want it to be? And so we're looking at all the data you're tracking, the correlation. And then with the RestWise patch, we've got your respiration, your skin temperature. It counts steps and posture and all kinds of stuff. So it's really, really exciting. to be able to add these features.
Okay. And that's the Vital Connect patch, right?
That's what the Vital Connect patch.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
So.
All right. Well, great. Well, I know Rhonda, you've got to catch a flight here in a little bit, so we'll just kind of finish up. And Jeff, I know you've got business things that you've got to get as well. So I guess really for our listeners, let's talk a little bit how they can start utilizing these. So Jeff, how do they start utilizing RestWise as a company and the information that comes from RestWise?
Well, so the first step would be to go to restwise.com, and we offer up it's a subscription service, but we offer up a free trial. So anybody who wants to give it a go for 30 days for free can do that. During those 30 days, there's a stream of emails that will educate you about a lot of issues related to recovery, ranging from the things that we track to its role in training. So there's a lot of value, even if you just do the trial and walk away from it at that point.
Okay.
And then if you work with a coach, your coach can always set up a free account that's always free and use that to monitor you and be able to see your information and that of all of his other athletes in the same place.
Okay, great,
and
awesome.
Set up HRV with Rhonda, then you can link the two accounts so that the data flows.
Wonderful.
Right into RestWise, and Rhonda will tell you how to do that.
All right, very cool. And I think this is awesome that we've got these two forms of data and everything as well. So Rhonda, how do we start utilizing Sweetwater and SweetBeat and SweetBeatLife for our training and our recovery?
Yeah, so just go to the iTunes App Store,
okay.
Apple App Store, and then do go to our website and check supported heart rate monitors. There's so many Bluetooth heart rate monitors out there. I think this is important to mention. We need what are called RR intervals.
Okay.
It's like the EKG peaks that you see, and not all chest straps transmit RR intervals.
Okay.
So even if it's a Bluetooth strap, you want to make sure that we've tested it.
Okay.
So go to our website, and it's just your athletic chest strap.
Okay.
Download it, pair it, and you're off and running.
Okay.
You'll create a Sweetwater Health account,
okay.
and then to link to RestWise, you just log into your account on the website, and there's a place right there once you're logged in to enter your RestWise credentials, and you're off and running.
Great.
So you would do your HRV for training session in the morning, and you will tag it. This is important. You will tag it HRV for training. There's a canned tag.
Okay.
That tells it to go over to RestWise.
Great. Okay. Well, wonderful. So with that, I guess really we're kind of coming to a close of this cool announcement of the way we can utilize both features, and we're going to. With that, I guess we'll kind of let you all kind of move on with your day, and I'm sure we will be in touch more. So I really appreciate it, and as I have more questions, I'll get in touch with each one of you individually, and we can kind of go from there for the quantified self stuff, because I'm sure I'll have questions before I start presenting there.
Okay.
Sounds great, Ryan.
All right.
Very much.
Well, thanks for being on, and I really appreciate it. You'll have a great day.
Okay. All right.
Too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Run.